Hey guys, thanks for tuning into part 2 of my Wrestlemania reaction podcast. What I originally intended to do was, I recorded a piece with my buddy Curt, who was actually there at the event, and I wanted to tag that on to the original podcast. The thing is, though, when I put the two parts together, it ended up being 2.5 hours long, and that is a lot to sit through in one particular video on YouTube or one particular podcast, however it is you're listening to this. So I just figured the part with Curt I'd just add as part 2 of the podcast. So enjoy, listen to that. Thank you for sticking around so far. This one has a little bit less language in there. It doesn't really have an explicit tag on in there, so it's a little more family friendly. So if that's something that bothered you about the last one, hopefully you enjoy this one a little more. Otherwise, enjoy the show. Thank you for listening. All right, guys. As an extra bonus, that I wanted to add to the end of this podcast, I've actually gotten a really good friend of mine. He's coming at me all the way from Cleveland, Ohio. Is that where you're from?
Yeah, a little bit south, like right around like the Akron area, actually. So. Right.
Okay, so all the way from closer to Akron, Ohio.
Yep.
You know him from the Music Speaks podcast. Curt Braden, welcome.
Hey, thanks, man. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so I just kind of wanted to add this on as a little addendum to the WrestleMania review. That I actually, funny thing is, I've actually recorded this first, but I'm going to add it to the end of it. So as we record this, it's Wednesday, the 6th of April. So basically, I wanted to have you on here, just kind of separate from the panel discussion, because you were actually in Dallas for WrestleMania 32, correct?
Correct.
All right, so why? I mean, if you could maybe take us through, your trip there, and just kind of relay your experience, all your experiences there for all the listeners, and so what did you do? When did you get into Dallas?
Well, I got in. It was kind of a fun time getting there. Had to connect in Chicago, and then Chicago had all kinds of weather delays and stuff, so I didn't get into Dallas until about 11 at night on Thursday. So I didn't really get a chance to do anything on Thursday. I know Jim Cornette was having his kind of event that day I was thinking about going to, but I obviously couldn't do that. So, yeah, I really couldn't do anything until Friday. So just kind of got in late.
Gotcha. Now you had tickets to NXT Takeover Dallas. Am I right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, definitely. This is my first time that I got to go to an NXT show. It was my 6th WrestleMania that I've been to. I went to 23 was my first one in Detroit.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, that was the first one I went to. And I really just kind of went to WrestleMania. I didn't do a lot of the extra stuff that year. It was more of just kind of went and experienced that for the first time. Mm-hmm. And then starting at 27 was where I started doing all the extra events and everything, going to the Hall of Fame and going to the post-Mania Raw. Going to the Access signings and everything. So I went to 27, 28, 29, and 30. And then 31 I wasn't able to go to. So then this year I was able to. So, but yeah, NXT, it was the first time I got to experience that live. And obviously, if you're into wrestling a lot and you've been watching it for a long time, I think that's kind of what NXT gravitates towards. So, for me, it was kind of the must-see event for me. I really wanted to go. Fortunately, I was able to get 2 tickets. They weren't the best seats, but there weren't really bad seats in the entire arena. There only was about 10,000 people in the arena. It was at the Kay Bailey Convention Center. So it was like the hottest ticket of the weekend. A lot of people were paying close to $300 for nosebleed tickets just to get in. So it was an awesome time. It was actually in the same arena that what Access was in. So, you get out of Access and the line was going up to get into NXT Takeover, and everybody's kind of like, what are you in line for? And we're like, oh, NXT Takeover. And a lot of people were like, how did you get tickets? And
wow.
It was really, really awesome. And I mean, they were filming outside in line, and they were doing the whole, everybody, chant NXT. And, they did a million takes of that. It was almost to the point where I was like, all right, I get it.
Right. Because they're trying to get
redo this, It was
like trying to get some footage for some of the bumpers, to come in.
I'm like, I feel like we're chanting good, but it was a little bit of a wait out there. And then once we got in and everything, it was just nonstop. I mean, first match all the way till the last match, it was an awesome time. Everybody was super loud. just an amazing event to go to.
Nice.
So,
Now, who were you there with?
I was there with my friend Jeff. He actually used to live in Ohio, and he moved to North Carolina, so it's kind of that yearly thing that we can get together and go to WrestleMania, whatever city it's in. So we get to hang out for, a week or so, or however long, we're there, and gives us time to hang out. And he's, always willing to, spend some money to go see everything, because not a lot of my friends are. They know how pricey WrestleMania and all the extra stuff is. So
it's not cheap. No. Funny thing is, like, I was actually there at WrestleMania 27 as well. I know you and Eric and Brittany and I think Paul was there as well, or
no? Well, at 27, the one in Atlanta or Miami? Which one?
27 was the one in Miami.
27 was Atlanta. 28 was Miami.
Okay. Never mind. Then the one in Miami I was in.
Yeah, he came down. Eric. Yeah, we drove. Eric and Britt. Me and then my friend Jeff, and actually my friend Andy met us down there too. And they went to Raw, but they didn't go to Mania. Eric and Britt, they just went, I believe, just to Raw. But
right, yeah, because I remember him telling me about that. So,
yeah.
Okay, so you're going to NXT Takeover Dallas, and what was it like being in the crowd? Because the NXT crowd is notoriously raucous. It's a bunch of smart marks there. We all know what the deal is.
Right. It was awesome. I mean, it was definitely a lot of the fans. They had obviously, been to wrestling events before. They knew, when somebody botched a move, it wasn't for that general crowd. And the matches were much more technical. I mean, the match, you had to, know some of the people in NXT. I mean, if you didn't know NXT, you probably knew, Samoa Joe or Finn Balor, some of the big names. But a lot of the guys, I mean, there was really not a bad match on the card. I mean, everybody was in to every single match. There was not a single match that people were not super loud for and really excited about. And when it came time, Shinsuke Nakamura and Sami Zayn were in about the middle of the show. And that was the absolute, climax. I mean, I don't think I've ever been in that loud of an environment as far as wrestling goes, because, I mean, they were chanting, "This is awesome," and they hadn't even touched yet. I mean, they literally were just standing across from the ring, and it was like they had already wrestled a 5-star match, and they hadn't even touched yet. I mean, that's how absolutely insane, this crowd was for this match. And, I mean, there were a lot of celebrities, at ringside just to see that match. X-Pac and Scott Hall, they came in just to see that match and pretty much left after it. But Jim Ross was there. Right. He stayed the entire thing. A lot of people that just wanted to see this show because they knew how good NXT was going to be. So there were a lot of people in the crowd. And like I said, with it being 10,000 and being a much smaller arena, it was just, the sound was just, I mean, when people were cheering and stuff, it wasn't like WrestleMania where it's so big and wide open, the sound kind of goes up. With this, it was just bouncing off the walls. I mean, it was deafening. So it was a really cool experience. So
very cool. Yeah, the hype for Nakamura and the match he had with Sami Zayn was just off the chart.
Oh, it was insane.
Because we know how big of a star this guy is in Japan. I don't really follow New Japan, so I have heard of this guy, but I hadn't really seen him. Right. And it's definitely one of those things where it's like I'm still kind of getting my own feel on him, but I mean, obviously the guy can work. The guy, he has charisma. I'm still trying to kind of figure him out a little bit, and this is just me as an outsider. Not a very good looking guy, let's be honest.
No, he comes out. I mean, he makes these crazy facial expressions. I mean, just kind of, curling his lips and, making really weird stuff and just kind of throwing his hands around. And a lot of people, they call him like the Freddie Mercury or Michael Jackson of wrestling, like just because he's very off the wall and charismatic, and most people wouldn't be able to do anything that he does and look, remotely cool. They would just be throwing their hands around. Like if I tried to do that, they'd be like, wow, what is this guy trying to do? But I feel like somehow he pulls it off, and it's just most of his charisma, I think, is with those mannerisms and with that kind of extreme, charismatic look, and he kind of, it's very showy. I mean, at the end of the match, you can kind of see him, and he just kind of does this cool little bow thing and just kind of gets down, and it's a cool experience. Like I feel like there's not many people like him at all, and that's what I think people are drawn to, So
it should be interesting to see how he does. I mean, I'm sure he's going to do great in NXT. If they get him on the main roster, who knows? But it looks like they had a lot of really great matches. Like you said, there wasn't really a bad one on the card, from the opening with American Alpha against the Revival, all the way through the last one with Finn Balor against Samoa Joe. That was just intense. Like
Samoa Joe, he was busted open really bad, and obviously the fans, they really turned against when the refs were coming and trying to patch him up. I mean, they were just chanting, FPG, and they were chanting,
I remember that.
I mean, they were chanting, "Let them bleed." I mean, it was a really, it was a pretty ruthless crowd. I mean, they did not like it. And to me, I turned to my friend Jeff and I said, all Samoa Joe has to do right now when they're patching him up, because there was one point they had done it a couple of times already, and they had him out on the entranceway, and they had him. It was maybe the third or fourth time that they tried patching him up. I was like, Jeff, all he needs to do is right when they're done, even if he lets them finish patching him up or putting kind of that glue on that they put on the wounds or whatever, all they need to do is he needs to throw the guy down and just run into the ring. Make it seem like, he thinks this is absolute BS as well, just to kind of get on the fan side. But he kind of did that. He threw his hands up and kind of got back in the ring. But I'm like, I feel like he should have done that, pretty aggressively. I think it would have popped really huge with the crowd. But but it was still a great match. I mean, that was great. And Bayley and Asuka was a fantastic match as well. So
definitely. But I mean, the thing with some of the NXT crowds, which I personally, I have like a love-hate relationship with it, and here's why. It's like, because I love the intensity, I love that people are into it, but it's just at a certain point, some of the chants, I think I find a little eye-rolling, and I'm sure you know what I'm talking about, because you get a crowd full of diehard wrestling nerds. Right. So sometimes you will get the most obnoxious wrestling fans trying to chant and hijack the show, and it just becomes annoying. I went to a Raw last year, and people started chanting CM Punk, and I just out loud I was like, really, he's not coming back, dummies.
Right. No, it gets extreme. I totally agree. I think the opening match, it was such a solid match, and then they botched one move, and it was just, they chanted Botchamania. They were just, you effed up. I mean, it took nothing for them to just start chanting. And it does seem like they just chant whenever they get a chance to chant something, they do. And instead of, in a normal WWE event, a lot of times they just, kind of enjoy the show. They don't, they don't really make themselves as much as part of the show. They just kind of...
Right. And obviously, like you said, that's a WrestleMania weekend crowd. So obviously you're getting the most diehard fans all over.
Right. No, it is. You get all those people, you get everybody from all the different countries, and if it's something that they don't like, they're just going to start singing. That's another thing.
They get sing-songy, which is kind of a pet peeve of mine. But I mean, like I said, I get it. It's a WrestleMania weekend crowd. This is the most diehard of the diehard fans coming in from all over the world. So naturally, they're going to go nuts with NXT. And I mean, sometimes it happens even at Full Sail. I mean, I went to a Full Sail taping once a while ago, and it's just some of the stuff, and it's just oh my god, you nerds, sit down. Of course, I mean, I am one, so I don't really have room to talk. But it's
right.
Hey, we want some Bayley. I'm like, shut up, dummies.
Didn't they chant that at WrestleMania? They chanted it. Or no, it was at Raw when
it was the night after, and it's that stupid it was the Hank Williams I want to know. Ooh, oh my god.
Yeah, it was right when, you're supposed to have this great moment where, they're doing Charlotte, getting the women's championship, and let them do their promo, and they just were completely trying to shake Charlotte up and get the kind of the show in their court, and chanting for Bayley and all this stuff. So they're loud, and they themselves noticed. I mean, that's their main point.
But I mean, again, I'm not crapping on them the entire time. I mean, obviously, they could also make the show even better than it is,
right?
Especially if they're really into it and really digging and booing the heels and cheering the faces and doing what a good crowd is supposed to do and getting into it. That helps make the show.
They 100% enhanced the Sami Zayn Nakamura match. I mean, that match was great by itself, but that crowd it elevated the match. I mean, by a ton, just because they were so into it. So, I mean, I give them credit for that. I mean, they made it really exciting for that match.
Nice. Now, did you go to the Hall of Fame ceremony at all?
No, I didn't go this year. I've gone twice before. I went to the year Shawn Michaels. I think that was 27 when Shawn Michaels got inducted, and I went the year that Edge got inducted, which I think that was 30.
Yeah.
30 I think 30 or 29. I can't remember, but those are the two I went to this year. I didn't go. I thought about it. And my buddy Jeff's a huge Sting fan, so he was kind of wanting to go, but neither of us really, we spent a lot extra on our WrestleMania tickets, and we kind of popped for the NXT tickets and stuff. So we were like, well, why don't we skip the Hall of Fame? Because the rest of the class I didn't really go crazy for. I would have liked to see the Michael Hayes and everything, see them get in, but
did you watch that on the network, by the way?
I did watch that. I did watch them. Yeah, I watched on the network.
Holy Christ, Michael Hayes! Like, I don't even know what to say about that. Like, it was just like, all right, we get it. You're in the Hall of Fame. Can you just kind of F off already?
Yeah, it was long. I mean, they went a long time for sure, and just went off on a tangent.
I mean, they beat that dead horse. Like, really, did you have to do like Bad Street USA in its entirety at the end? And then you're bringing in Kevin Von Erich for the hot tag, and like, and he's like, I don't know what I'm doing here. So
right, didn't he? And he was the one that pronounced New Day's name wrong, right? Was he the one that he called him New Gay? Was that?
Okay, I was wondering if I was the only one who noticed that. I was like, was that a Freudian slip? I mean,
and that had been because I was listening after
I troll the New Day, like what?
Because I was looking at Twitter and everybody was just going, hashtag New Gay, like all these things. I'm like, what are they talking about? And then I read that he pronounced it. And it sounded like New Gay, and I'm like, oh my gosh, are you
like kidding me? That's not incredibly PC. Like,
no, not at all.
Look, I know the New Day aren't exactly the most masculine, group of guys. Let's be honest.
But I mean. But it was just a little, I think Freudian slip or something. I don't know.
Not that there's anything wrong with that. Like,
right.
Oh my God. By the way, I was talking to my buddy Corey about this. I'm like, it would be just a hilarious thing if New Day's backstage and like Darren Young walks up to him and is like, guys, what are you doing up there? It's kind of gay. Just have him walk off.
Oh my God,
that would be hilarious.
That would be awesome.
Not very politically correct. Not that there's anything wrong with any of that. I'm just saying it would have been funny.
It would have been a chuckle for sure.
Just like to the 2% of the crowd who got it and be like, that's hilarious.
Right.
Like they went
what did you think of Sting retiring though? Did you see that coming at all, or did you think he tried?
I did. I mean, I kind of knew it was coming. With like the injuries he's had and.
Yeah.
Basically, from what I've heard, and it's sad that he's essentially 0 for 2 in WWE, and right. I mean, Sting is one of my all-time favorites, right. But I mean, honestly, like in my mind, there's nothing left for him to prove. I think he's done it all.
Yeah. And actually, he did get, and I thought he was 0 for 2 as well, but he did get a pinfall in that tag match on Raw. He teamed up with John Cena. And it was like in a tag match, and I think he did get the pinfall. So you can technically say he did win a WWE match. So
I'm trying to remember who were they facing up against?
They fought Seth Rollins and whoever John Cena was feuding with before Night of Champions, maybe Rusev or something. I don't.
Yeah, I think that was still happening.
I know Seth Rollins. I know that was one of them, and he, and Sting did get the pinfall, but I completely forgot about that because I thought the whole time I'm like, wow, he wrestled 2 matches in WWE and he lost both of them. But yeah, I did remember that though after a while.
But no, I mean, I'm glad they put him in the Hall of Fame.
Sure.
It's one of those things where he deserved to be there. There's no question, and I'm glad that they kind of showed him respect, even if it's kind of after the fact. But,
right.
I mean, that's just a booking choice. Ultimately, Sting was a pro. He did what he had to do. And the match he had with Triple H was still a good match,
Right. Oh, yeah. No doubt.
Yeah. So, all right. So on to the big show. I'm talking about WrestleMania. Yeah. So, I mean, oh my God, looking at that crowd at the stadium in Dallas. I mean, that was just insane. I mean, 101,000 strong. I mean, that alone is incredible.
Yeah, I mean, there's been speculation. I think it was Dave Meltzer said that technically the count at the doors was somewhere around 97,000, and they fudged it a little, but I don't know if that's true or not. He's reporting that it wasn't quite 101,000, but that was the number they announced at the stadium. So
still, I mean, even if it wasn't, it sure felt like it.
Right. I mean, either way, that's an insane amount of people. It completely surpasses anything any of the other ones I've been to. I think the biggest one before that was maybe 30, and I think that was 80-some thousand, like 82,000 or something like that. But it was a huge, huge crowd. I mean, I just looking up and looking around, I think I did a couple, panoramic shots on my phone, and it was just a sea of people. It was crazy.
How were your seats?
Well, the seats were good. Like, we were actually in the looking directly towards the entranceway in about the mid-level, and we were in a front row of the section, so there was nobody in front of us or anything. So, but they had such a big floor seating, and it's such a big stadium. Even though we were technically in the middle section or so, it still was pretty far away, and we kind of had to look up at the jumbo screens to see anything, if we kind of wanted to detail what they were doing. But it was still a good seat, though. It wasn't like 28 where a palm tree was in front of me, so that's much better.
Right, yeah.
But no, it was good. But the main thing, did you hear about people not getting into the stadium? Did you hear about that whole thing?
I don't think I heard about that. I remember footage of people piling in, but I didn't. Like, were people being turned away, or?
Well, what happened was AT&T Stadium, ironically, their Wi-Fi went down, so they were having queues scanning their tickets. So there were literally about half the stadium was not even in the building when Kalisto and Ryback went out for their match. It was completely empty, and we stood out there. We were there far before the doors were supposed to open, and we were just all standing out there. And there was a kid in our area that needed medical attention because he kind of passed out, and there were people dehydrated, and because it was about like mid 80s when we were there, and it was just shoulder to shoulder, and they didn't come out and tell us anything that was going on. Like, the only reason I found out about the Wi-Fi deal was just looking on, just on my phone, and they were saying, yeah, people are having trouble getting in, they're having trouble scanning tickets. And then by the time, everything was going, we finally kind of worked our way around. We get up to security, and they kind of, they did the wand and did that, but they didn't even look in our bags to see anything. And we're like, we figured like security be really tight, and they were being so strict about what kind of bags you could bring in. And then here they didn't even look in me and Jeff's bag. I'm like, all right, well, I guess they're just trying to hurry up and get everybody in there before the show starts.
Oh, yeah. I mean, could you imagine if like half the stadium wasn't in there? That would have been a disaster.
And if they actually got to, and that Vince McMahon was probably going nuts because it wasn't WWE's fault. It was like they literally had Kalisto's match and the Divas match, the 5-on-5, and there was nobody in there. I think mainly people started getting in there by the time that the Dudleys faced the Usos. That was when the stadium was actually filling up. But
I just assumed that because it was the pre-show, people were still piling in. And stuff like that. I mean, oh my God, Vince must have been having a coronary. He's probably like, let him in, damn it.
Oh man, it was, I can't even imagine, because they actually said that they were supposed to have the Kalisto Ryback match earlier, and they kept pushing it back because they couldn't get people in the stadium. So eventually they're like, we gotta send them out, and here they go out and pretty much perform in front, half the amount of people that, if you even look in the front sections, there were just huge empty sections there, and people were kind of calling it empty arena match,
I still think those the pre-show matches were still really good. I thought everybody brought a lot of even like the Divas match, the Total Divas thing, and they're not all of them are known for being like the best workers, but I think they put on a great thing, and it was kind of
Bree's move was awesome into the S-lock. I mean, that was that little roll up she did and got right into it. I mean, that was really, really impressive. So
right, and the moment with Nikki coming out at the end was a big thing. I mean, whether you're a fan of the Bella Twins or not, it was still a really cool moment, and kind of a little poignant in hindsight, because apparently that's apparently Bree retired after that, kind of quietly.
Yeah, we didn't even get to see it. So that was upsetting, like hearing
But I mean,
that.
that's a good moment to go out on, I think.
Oh, sure, for sure.
So,
Yeah.
oh my God, how great did Lana look, by the way? Oh my God.
Yeah. It was insane. Like, well, that was another bummer. Like when we were outside, my friend Jeff was texting, a couple of his friends that were watching, and one of them literally texted him and said, "Wow, if the worst thing that you miss by not being in there is Lana right now, holy crap." I mean, yeah, she was. When I went back and watched the match, I'm like, geez. I mean, yeah, it was pretty amazing.
Yeah, that and Eva Marie's outfit was really good too. But I mean, they all look. I mean, they're all beautiful women. I mean, they all look great.
Yeah, definitely.
So, yeah, Kalisto and Ryback was a good match. People kind of give Ryback a hard time, but I thought he did great in this one. Kalisto is a really talented guy. I mean, I'm glad to see him getting a little bit of a run as the U.S. champ.
I'm a big kind of naysayer. I'm not a big fan of Ryback. I mean, I can't look back and say, man, I really loved that Ryback match versus so and so. But that match was actually, I really felt like he went kind of to the next, level. I felt like he really put a lot extra into it. And that whole David versus Goliath thing with Kalisto, and Kalisto being as good as he is, it really worked. And they had a lot of quick reversals, quick moves. The moves were really strong. I mean, some of the, like, I think he spine bustered them, and, a couple moves like that. I'm like, wow, they're really going all out. And I think Kalisto really, I mean, you can tell they're trying to kind of make him that Rey Mysterio of the company. And I think eventually they're going to kind of break the Lucha Dragons up and everything. But I think he has the potential because he does speak, English really well. I mean, his promos were pretty decent that he's done so far as a singles wrestler. But I think he's got a lot of, potential to, I don't know if he'll get at the level of Rey Mysterio, but I think he could definitely get up there and be a top performer for sure. So
yeah, I mean, I think so. As long as they like kind of let him do his own thing and let him just kind of be himself and not try to push him as the next Mysterio, because if they do that, that's a death sentence. I mean, and I mean, of course, he speaks English really well. He's from Chicago, so it's yeah.
I had no clue he was from Chicago.
Yeah.
So I learned something.
Yeah, I mean, he kind of went back and forth from that and Mexico City, but I mean, that was good, and I'm not the biggest, Ryback fan either, but I mean, I think the guy works really hard, and I think he's consistently, like, works harder to get better, and he seems like a good dude, so I mean, yeah, good on him. I'm glad he's the Usos and Dudley's match, I felt like that should have been the main thing, but that, still, they were there. That was a good match.
For sure. Yeah, they were. Yeah, Dudley's and Usos, that was kind of when we were getting to our seats and everything. And, they had just announced, Lita had just done the announcement about the WWE Women's Championship, which I was a little confused by when she said the first ever WWE Women's Champion. And I'm like, it was the Women's Championship before it was the Diva. You know what I mean?
That's not entirely correct, but okay, it's the first time you're using that belt.
Right, exactly. And I mean, but whatever. But it was a nice looking belt. I really like the white on the red like that, and I mean, it looks good. And I'm a fan of them going.
I like how it looked like the world title belt to kind of like put it on like equal footing. No, I mean, I think that's a good choice because it like gives it like okay, yeah, this is up there with the guys' world title as well. So I think that's a really cool move on their part.
Yeah, definitely.
I mean, we don't have to go through all the matches. I mean, by the time you're listening to this, I've already done that with the panel. But what were some of the highlights, for you while you were there? What are the things that really stuck out to you as like being really cool moments that you're going to remember?
I mean, the ladder match was great. That was, had a lot of great spots in it. Sami Zayn just had an amazing weekend. I thought he had some of the best standout moments in the match. So I'm really excited where he goes with everything. I was really surprised Zack Ryder won. I mean, it was cool because it was completely unexpected. I think it's one of those things that ladder matches, no matter if there's 2 people or 8 people or however many, a lot of times there's only 1 or 2 people that could potentially win. And I think it was cool that they went with a completely off the wall person, somebody who got put in the match, just last minute, basically.
I'm so happy for him. I can't tell you. I mean, I've been a fan of his for a long time. Love Sami Zayn as well. I'm glad he got to pull like double duty there. I mean, he's got to be sore as crap after that. But
Yeah.
but I mean, does he not have like one of the catchiest entrance themes ever? I mean, it's great.
When
It's
he comes
infectious.
out, oh yeah. I mean, and I don't think it's just because of the kind of the UK crowd and everything singing along. I think when he gets elevated and he starts getting, more and more popular, I think people all across the US are going to be singing his song when he comes out, and how he comes out and just kind of bobs his head and kind of goes with the music. I mean, how do you not love this guy? He is just,
There's just something different about him. Like, he's got a different look. He looks like the guy you'd be hanging out with down at the bar. He doesn't really like he's not a really big guy. I mean, yeah, he's in good shape, but he's not like all like even cut up or anything. He's just like looks like an average dude, but he's got that energy, and I don't know what it is about him, but it's like he's just likable. He's just one of those guys who has that it factor, and of course the music and the entrance and everything. It's part of the complete package. I mean, the entrances alone at WrestleMania, I think, make this like such a big event. I mean, just the spectacle of it all. It's infectious. I mean, I thought this was one of the most like visually impressive WrestleManias I've ever seen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, there was something special almost to everybody's entrance that, and that's all the great production that they put into WrestleMania. I mean, they had the huge, cereal box of Booty-O's.
Oh my God.
I mean, that they were actually, the funny thing, you couldn't really see on, watching it on the network, but if you're there live, they were actually setting that up while Chris Jericho and AJ Styles were getting on. So I kind of feel like that almost distracted people a little bit.
Yeah.
Jericho match, because AJ Styles and Jericho had a great one-on-one match. As far as one-on-one matches on the card, I feel like they had one of the stronger ones. I was really surprised that Jericho went over, but I think that was kind of a little nod to them saying, you've been loyal to us for so long. We're going to give you the win on this one. Because I don't think it hurt AJ Styles. And then especially the next night on Raw, he had a great night. So,
Yeah, I mean, it was one of those things, like, I would have loved to see AJ go over, but like, I can't complain if Chris goes over, because I'm a big fan of his as well, but But I see what you mean as far as that goes. It looks like they're at least using AJ pretty well right now. I don't think for a minute that he's going to win the belt from Roman, but I'm glad that he's at least number one contender.
He's in that main event picture, which is good. I mean, because he does, in my opinion, belong there. I mean, he's been there. He's been performing at so many other different companies at a high level, and so it's good that they're looking at him as being able to fill that spot. So that's good.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully things are changing there, kind of for the better. Yeah, I mean, every match on the card was good, I think. Like, I can't think of like a bad match or segment in the show. Like, it really was like, I mean, despite all the obstacles they had going into it with the injuries and just the kind of lame build-up, which they've kind of made a habit of the last couple years. Right. Yeah, I mean, almost in spite of themselves, I think this is one of the best WrestleManias I've ever seen.
Yeah, I mean, it was the thing that, even though they had all the injuries, they had all of the setbacks with that, they still managed to put on, as far as good matches go. I mean, they were all solid. Some of the booking, which I think, we talked about a little bit, the booking decisions for some things were a little quirky. I didn't really understand why. Like, at the segment after New Day and the League of Urinations, as I like to call them, they, so you put League of Nations over, and then you have three old veterans who I love all of them. I mean, they came out and then beat down League of Nations, who just beat New Day, and I didn't quite get that because it kind of makes New Day look a little like, okay, well, they could beat him up, but I get it was all just.
I thought the thing with Austin was perfect. I'm like, yeah, of course he would do that.
I love that he just ended up, stunning, Xavier Woods and stuff. I was waiting for that. Everybody was, and. It was good. I couldn't believe how, good a shape Shawn Michaels was in. I mean, in full wrestling gear.
Yeah.
And, oh, my God. I'm like, geez, he literally is ready for a match again. Like,
he looked like he could go right there.
Yeah. Yeah. And then Mick Foley, he dropped a lot of weight, and he looked really good. And Austin looks great. I mean, that's the most frustrating thing is, that Stone Cold could put on a one-on-one match. I really believe that, even with his knees and everything. It's just whether or not he actually will. I don't know.
I don't think he wants to. honestly.
No, I don't either. I think that it's
I think if he wanted to, they would find a way to make it happen. And,
yeah, sure.
Because that's just, I mean, you're leaving money on the table. But, I mean, at the end of the day, he just, I think when he retired, he said, like, nope, that's it. I'm sticking with it. And, you got to respect him for that.
Sure. I mean, it was great. And then, like I said, there was, and I agree. A lot of the matches, I mean, the women's triple threat was fantastic. Everybody is calling that one of the best matches on the card. And with good reason. It was a great match back and forth. Everybody was upset, that Sasha didn't win. But for me, it's one of those things that, obviously they knew that. And I think, Charlotte going over, I think it just kind of prolongs that anticipation for when Sasha finally does win it. Yeah. And I think it was a good enough match where everybody came out looking good. So I didn't really hurt anybody. And, a lot of the matches were just great. I mean, there were some amazing, ooh and ah moments. Obviously Shane McMahon there were so many please don't die chants going on. And
how he's even alive after all that is incredible.
Well, they did say, they were testing that out prior, the couple days before. They were doing a lot of the kind of practice on it using, crash bags. And you could see under the announce table when he hit, there was actually kind of an inflated crash pad.
You would have to.
Yeah. If he would have just done that like Mick Foley did and just hit the announce table from that high up, I mean, he would have been seriously.
Yeah, he would have broken his neck instantly.
Oh, yeah. Without doubt. Yeah. I mean, it was amazing. Like just seeing him walk out. I mean, just step out.
I'm sure it didn't tickle.
No, not at all. I mean, he hit hard. I mean, you just see him and he's just falling, and it just looks like he's just picking up speed more and more. And then when he finally hits the table, it explodes. I mean, he hit that thing hard. So, but it was amazing.
It's curious to see what they do with him going forward. Obviously, the angle on Raw the next night was what it was.
Right.
Hopefully, I mean, I don't know what his role backstage is right now or how much control he actually has, but it should be interesting. At least they're kind of acknowledging what's going on in the company right now, and it seems like they're at least paying attention to what the fans are saying. So we'll see.
I think honestly the way that it's going, because I've heard rumors that Triple H and Stephanie, the Authority, are going to be going away for a while, and it could be that Shane takes that spot and they go from having those heel general manager types like we've had before, the Eric Bischoff and stuff.
Yeah, that trope.
And then going to Shane, where Shane is going to be more like your William Regal type general manager, where he's going to be screwing over a lot of the heels instead of the heel. The baby face is always getting screwed over by Triple H and Stephanie. So
or just out to make things fair and all that stuff, fair and balanced, exactly. Like a baby face authority figure.
Right.
Which would be refreshing, honestly, because I mean, like how many times have we seen the heel authority figure over the last couple of years? It's been done to death.
If I hear Stephanie McMahon one more time open Raw with just that Monday Night Raw, I mean, it makes me want to just gouge my eyes.
Well, I mean, it's the same as like having Vince on screen, where it's like they're not good actors, but they commit hard to it, and you got to give it. I mean, which I guess is what the show calls for, really. So I mean, I can't really fault them for that.
Right.
But how great was Triple H's entrance, by the way? I liked. I thought that was actually really cool, like how like she gave this like big dramatic monologue, but I mean it was like kind of surreal and everything, very theatrical, but I dug it.
Yeah, it was cool. I mean, he never falls short on the entrances. I mean, he's like kind of well known for his WrestleMania entrances for sure. Did you hear that Finn Balor was actually one of the kind of the side characters?
Oh, really?
Yeah, he was, and a lot of NXT guys were. But yeah, it was good. Yeah, but it was definitely a really cool entrance. It was different from a lot of the ones he's done before, and his entrances always pump up a main event when he's in it. It just adds to the production and the theatrics of
that. Might have been one of his best entrances yet. I mean, only thing that would have made it better if Lemmy was still around.
Right.
R.I.P.
Yeah. Sure, absolutely. No, it was great. I mean, that was, that was kind of the start. I feel like the whole show was really good. It got up to the main event. You had the really good, entrance for Triple H, but it was such a long show. I feel like from what I've been hearing from other people, they kind of agree that the main event, because Triple H does such a slow, methodical type of a match, especially at the beginning, people were so burnt out, and then nobody cared about seeing Roman Reigns win.
Oh, I'm sure. I mean, it was a long, long event, so I'm sure people must have been burned out.
Yeah, it was a lot, and then to end on that note, and from what I've heard from people watching on the network compared to like me being there live and hearing, they really did mess with the audio a lot. The boos that were filling.
Oh, I'm sure.
Oh my God! And that makes me more mad than anything, because
I was going to ask you about that. People must have been all over Roman Reigns. And
anytime he showed up, whether it was on a video package, whether it was on him coming out to the ring, he just he just got destroyed. And it's like, and I don't think he's a bad wrestler whatsoever. I think that he got put in this role because they like his look, they like his character. I think he does need some work and everything, but I don't think he doesn't deserve what he's getting from everyone.
I think he just needs to tweak his gimmick a little bit. I mean, he's wearing he's doing kind of the same stuff he did in The Shield. He's even coming out to the same music. Right. So, I mean, I don't know if they just did something a little bit different just to make him stand out. Yeah. He doesn't need to really talk that much. I think, I buy him as being like a badass, strong, silent type. I mean, I don't buy for a minute that the Authority doesn't want him to be champ. Like, that doesn't make sense at all. When it's so obvious, when it's so obvious we know that he's Vince's guy.
Right.
Why even BS the crowd at this point?
Right. And I'm thinking too, with him, it's more of a, he doesn't quite know what to do with his character. He tries to be kind of cool with his, wording. He tries to be like, hey, I'm Roman Reigns, and he, says I'm the guy, and he kind of has that swagger to him a little bit, and I think that rubs people the wrong way, and it comes across cocky, kind of arrogant and everything. So I think a lot of people, and then I feel like it's mainly because people are getting force-fed Roman Reigns, just like they back in the mid 2000s with John Cena. People were like, I don't want John Cena as champion, yet they kept saying, no, we do, and they just had him win every single pay-per-view. And I'm really worried that if they keep Roman Reigns in that same position that John Cena was, he's going to have a long year of just being in main events, winning them all, and getting booed the entire year, just like John Cena did back in 2005.
Yeah, I mean, the audience has become conditioned to, rebel against that stuff. And it's not even a knock on Cena, because, Cena's a hard-working guy. I mean, the guy works his ass off for the company. Oh, yeah. And he's good at what he does. I mean, everybody has vouched for him. He can work. I mean, I wish he'd do something a little different with his character. And I would love to see a heel Cena, a serious, and just to have him I'm getting off on a tangent here, but I would love to see him come out, kind of look almost like gangster hip hop or something. Have him come out. It's like, no, you guys don't get to cheer for me now. You guys spent the last 10 years booing me, just because I had to sit there and smile and take it. Screw you. I'm the best of all time, and just go on and on and on. And so
I don't know. And it's one of those things that Cena, I don't know if they ever will, just for the fact that because of how well he does with merch and how well he does with Make-A-Wish and everything. I mean, he is like that role model for every kid. And I think if they were to do the heel turn on anyone, it would be Roman Reigns. And I think that would help him develop his character and who he's going to be personality-wise, and I think make him more comfortable on the mic, because I feel like he still doesn't quite know what to do when he comes into that arena, and he's got everything kind of scripted to him, but this crowd is just all over him. And I think in Cena, because he's had so much practice, he has become a master of, when the crowd's against him, flipping that and kind of just, giving that little John Cena smirk and everything. And
saying, he knows it, but he's like, I don't care. I'm just going to do what I'm going to do.
Right, but you can tell Roman Reigns is much more uncomfortable because he hasn't, experienced that as long. And I think that he would benefit from a heel run a lot, because he would then get that feeling of, how do I react to this when the crowd is, all over me? Or how do I, approach this type of situation, and I think it would really benefit him to do that. And I mean, that could be something.
I would love it if he like pulled a Batista. Batista just went with it. It's like, all right, you want to boo me? I'll be a heel then.
Oh yeah, no, he would, and that shows too how good Batista is, because he said from the beginning he knew that he wasn't going to be a babyface, and like going into WrestleMania 30, he was like, it's a bad idea, and he kept saying that. And when everybody got over him, and I was actually at that Rumble when he won, and he was just, I mean, it was the same type of boo, and it was funny because I think he was wrestling Roman Reigns. It was down to those two, and how much in 1 year it changes from everybody was cheering Roman Reigns to beat Batista, and then the next year Roman Reigns is that guy that everyone is like, please let anybody else win besides him, and it was just
the internet used to love Roman Reigns when he was in the Shield.
Absolutely.
They were like, oh, he's the guy. Then it's like, yep. And I was thinking, like, I'll bet this is going to change if that happens, and sure enough, it did. But it's funny, like, you almost have to admire Vince in a way. Like, this stuff keeps happening year after year.
Right.
And he doesn't care. He's going to push who he wants to push, and he doesn't, So
it's amazing. It's amazing how many years in a row that they've completely just really botched the main event for Mania. I mean, they had to pull that audible for 30 and just kind of throw Daniel Bryan, which I'm glad they did, because it made WrestleMania 30 so much better.
Oh my gosh, that must have been an amazing moment to be there in person.
That was probably my favorite Mania that I've been to, because it was just, it was one of those things that went from Randy Orton and Batista being the main event and everybody talking about walking out before it even starts. I mean, there were literally people online saying that they were going to do that. And then when you added Daniel Bryan to, you had the Triple H match, and then he worked his way into the Triple Threat match, and then he won. I mean, he was the guy that everybody wanted to win, and Vince McMahon gave that to everybody, and it worked, and that was what they needed. And then 31,
despite their best efforts, they.
Yeah.
They did everything they could to kill the push for this guy, which, I don't understand that logic. You look at the reaction that Ryder got when he won the IC title bout, and of course he loses the next night, which I hate it. I knew it was coming, but it's just I'm a little bit biased towards Ryder because that's a whole nother podcast in and of itself, like why they really dropped the ball with him. But
it was that's the thing. They did that. I think it's just the surprise factor, and just nobody expected that, because that's years after Ryder was really, becoming that fan favorite and everything. But I think
people still love him,
Oh, no, people still love him, absolutely. But I think with the Roman Reigns thing, it blows me away. Like I said, that they have to mess with the audio, they have to do this and that. It's like, if you know that it's just not working anywhere. There's really not an arena that he's not getting booed out of. How do you keep going that direction month in and month out? Like, why don't you just say, you know what, maybe this isn't the right time to push him. Maybe we need to back that off a little bit, or we need to try something different. Because for me, it's like, if you're going to have to mess with live audio just to make it look like it's coming across that, people don't hate him that much. To me, that's not who you want in your main events as your lead babyface.
It's one of those things, Curt. It's if 100,000 people booing this guy out of the building doesn't send a message, I don't know what will.
Yeah, exactly. They spoke their minds, and they just said, nope, we're not hearing you. And they turned the volume down. And it's like,
pretty much.
That's exactly the message that I'm getting from WWE Creative. So.
Yeah, it's one of those things, and it sucks because I have a buddy of mine who is actually on the writing staff. I haven't really talked to him in a while because I don't want to get him, interfere with his job or whatever. I don't even want to mention his name on the thing because I don't want to get him in trouble. But it's I would text him suggestions and be like, hey man, I really loved this story when it came out and blah blah blah. Right. But it's one of those things where he kind of hinted at me. He's like, at the end of the day, it all comes down to the old man. And
right, yeah.
It's the buck stops with him for better or worse, and that's I don't disagree with. Maybe he's earned that right. That's his company. I understand, but it's don't come out there and say that you listen to the fans, and then that's just my deal.
I mean, I'm just putting myself, if I was in Vince McMahon's shoes, I mean, and I was the one that made the final call, and I've got like however many, I know there's a lot of people on the writing team, more than there used to be, but if I had, say, 15 writers coming up to me and saying, this is kind of what we think would go in this, in this role, or this direction, and then, everyone's kind of in agreement, I'm not going to go and say, well, I think that's ridiculous. I'm going against you, and I'm going this way. And they're all kind of, and they're not going to say anything because you're Vince McMahon. But to me, it's like, I mean, I would kind of go more with the consensus of yeah, that's why I have you as writers, because you're paying attention to the product and you're, in touch with that. But yeah, I mean, he does make the final call, but I don't know how you go against, everybody.
I mean, it's Vince and Kevin Dunn and Michael Hayes and, these same old guys who are, keep doing their thing. But
right.
Again, I could, we could talk about this for hours.
Right.
For those of you still listening to this, by the way, and all two of you, no, I mean, I'm sorry if we're repeating myself, or I'm sorry if I'm repeating myself, but sometimes this stuff bears repeating.
Right. Yeah, I mean, the Roman Reigns thing is probably the biggest topic on every wrestling podcast, because he is the number one guy and he's getting booed out of every arena, and he's the guy that's not supposed to be getting booed out of every arena. So, of course, every single wrestling podcast is talking about that. That's like the number one topic.
And I feel bad for the guy. I mean, I really do, because it's not really his fault, to a degree.
Right. Right. I mean, he got put in that role, and he's trying to do the best with it as he can. But, and until they give him the okay to try something different, or like how Batista just kind of flipped it and said, yeah, you know what? Fine, boo me. I don't care. But
I'm sure that CM Punk podcast didn't do him many favors either.
No, not at all. It was, you got to look at every angle. And like I said, I don't think the future is bad for Roman Reigns. I think he's going to end up just fine. I just think right now he's not in the right role for where he needs to be, and I think that he'll eventually get past that. So
I agree. All right. Well, Curt, any final thoughts or any final things that stood out to you before we sign off here?
No, you know what? Like you said, it was a great WrestleMania, even though it had a lot of booking things that may have been better the other way. But the wrestling was quality. The production is always better every single year. And even though walked out and you had kind of a bad taste in your mouth when the main event was over, I immediately go, I can't wait till next year. You know what I mean? And it's going to be in Orlando. So I'm hoping you're going to be going too, right?
That's the plan. I mean, it's in my backyard now. So far I've been to 24, which was in Orlando, and 28 in Miami. So yeah, that's the deal. I'm definitely planning on being there. Hopefully I can get the entire crew from the podcast there, maybe do some live stuff, and hopefully meet up with you there if you're going. So that'd be nice.
Absolutely, man. Yeah, I'm really excited about it for sure.
All right, Curt, why don't you go ahead and plug your Twitter? I mean, also obviously you're on the Music Speaks podcast with Eric. Where else can they find you?
I'm on Twitter at Baseman1785, so you can find me there, and I'm always tweeting stuff about wrestling and music and stuff like that. And the Music Speaks podcast, we're going to start pumping that up a lot more now that Eric's back in the area and everything. So we're going to get a lot more episodes out. Then it just was getting harder and harder when he was down there, and got to get working on getting up here now. So now that he's here and everything's good, we're going to start cranking out more episodes there. So yeah, just check us out on Facebook there, Music Speaks Podcast. We're on iTunes. That's pretty much it.
Good deal, man. Once the show gets back up and running, I'll have to have you on for a full legitimate episode and just get a full interview with you. I think that'd be great. Very cool, man. Thanks for being here on the show for this little bonus edition of the Phoenix Report. For Curt Braden, I'm Jack Connor. Follow me on Twitter at JackXConnor, and check out all the links below. Peace.